I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Harry Litman. Harry, let's talk about our favorite topic, Judge Aileen Cannon. I'm joking, of course, because what in the world is Cannon going to do on any given day? Let's talk about two things in Judge Aileen Cannon's court. First, let's talk about this bizarre hearing that Judge Cannon held under SEPA Section 4. She's supposed to hold these ex parte in-camera hearings with the government to determine if certain classified documents that the government wants to withhold should be turned over or not. The very essence of SEPA Section 4, as I've read it, as the statute says, as every court read it, is that the defendant and the defendant's lawyers don't go in that hearing. Trump's lawyers have asked to show up and be at the SEPA Section 4 hearing. So rather than just deny that request the same way Judge Tanya Chutkan denied it, and Judge Tanya Chutkan denied it in a funny way. She said to Trump's lawyers, if you want to show me any authority anywhere of any court doing this, which has never happened, feel free to show it to me, but otherwise I'm going to go with what the law says and what every other court has done. But in contrast, Judge Cannon, who's refused to make an actual order to this date. There are all these paperless scheduling orders because I think she's learned all the wrong lessons when she was overturned twice by the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals back in 2022. And she's I moved too quickly. If I just do scheduling orders, I can avoid all of this. So she held a pre-hearing SEPA Section 4 to basically do a Section 4 with the government to then determine what we already know she can't do, which is to determine if she should then allow Trump's lawyers to sit in on this. It took a few hours, this hearing. Special counsel Jack Smith's team showed up and they were going to show her these documents. They're highly classified and sensitive, but I assume they're the nuclear records, the Iranian war plans and things like that, saying these documents don't get turned over. There should be a substitution. So just number one, let's just talk about that. This odd hearing that she held. Basic statutes like SEPA, she doesn't follow the procedures there about, I think, what it says, and how she hasn't really made, everyone says, why isn't Jack Smith going to the 11th Circuit? Why isn't he getting her removed? I always say she hasn't made an order that could be appealed at this stage yet, and that's one of the issues. What do you make of all of that? Let's start there, then let's go to Jack Smith's motion to opposition to the motion to compel.
Yeah, so look, the bottom line is a disaster. That's always been clear. She just eats up so much time and she makes so many elementary blunders. And the hovering question out there is she doing it on purpose or, it almost doesn't matter. But every single blunder she makes is in favor of one of the two sides, and that would be Trump. This is really shades, this little episode of her initial debacle where Trump came in after a search and said, I want a special monitor to go through this all, and maybe it is privileged. And, you don't do that at that stage of a criminal proceeding. You have time in pretrial litigation, or maybe you can make satellite litigation, but you just don't do that. And she went on for months. At the time, we weren't counting the clock so much, but she was so indulgent to a completely lawless theory. So the same thing here, and this is the risk. The whole thing with how she's dealing with SEPA is so wrong-headed. There's nothing in the indictment or the charges that has anything to do with the content of these documents. It's very clear the way the indictment is constructed. They are of a certain level. You can just read on the outside. He took them. He shouldn't have had them, and he knew what he was doing. That's it. And it's a patent, but also meritless effort on his part to try to essentially, blackmail is a strong word, but that's actually in what you call this is gray mail. There are defendants who will say, we really need the content of this in order to make a good defense. And the government says, we can give you, and with the judge's help, enough information, but still hide the most important. And that goes back and forth and can take a while. Here, it's got nothing to do with the trial, and her indulgence is just taking up more time. And, moreover, your point is well taken. The other reason that it's just hard to indulge the notion that she's just doesn't know what she's doing is it seems very crafty, even squirrely, that she continually declines to make an order. As you've, as your listeners will know, that her whole misadventure way back when she got slapped down by the conservative 11th Circuit. And if she does something pretty bad again, Jack Smith could bring it up and say, now it's time to recuse her. And so what she does is, so she's done discovery orders that clearly will just totally delay the trial. But she doesn't change the trial date. She's going to, it's a total farce, because the time's going to come when, like, okay, now we'll have this hearing, a week or two before trial. And then the foregone conclusion will actually become effective. Oh, I guess this trial has to be, 2027 maybe. But it does seem a concerted strategy not to give anything that the DOJ can really kind of sink its teeth into to bring to the 11th Circuit's attention. The bottom line is all kind of mucky little procedural stuff. And the same thing here. So the motion today, that the papers that the DOJ filed were just to push back on Trump's effort to get further discovery. And we know this is going to happen now again and again. He's going to make claims of there's bias or things that really have nothing to do with nothing, including the content of these these classified documents. And she's going to indulge them, or at a minimum, give them all kinds of time to propound silly arguments that have nothing, no possible purchase under the law, but are pretty good for, eating up another 6 weeks. I have pretty much, as you said, this is a cut and dried case. You think of what, it's not in some ways as serious as the 1-6 case because it's post-presidential conduct, but it is cut and dried. He is guilty as can be. And I've basically given up hope. I don't think of this anymore as the one that could go to trial and a jury conviction before the election, even though it's the simplest one, and I think pretty clearly with most other judges would have been the candidate to be, out front in the pole position. She's just, completely gumming it to death, and there's just only so much you can do about a single district court judge who has discretion over a lot of things that create delays.
A lot of people were asking, well, why didn't special counsel Jack Smith seek her recusal at the outset when it was assigned to her, seeing that she was overturned? I think that, I'll get your take on it. If special counsel Jack Smith did that, I think that there could have been an argument made to the 11th Circuit. Look, she was an inexperienced judge. She made a mistake. I mean, I think it would be wrong, but this would be the argument. You got to give her the benefit of the doubt. Let her try to redeem herself. And I think in deference to a federal judge, the 11th Circuit probably would not have recused her. And then it would have backfired on special counsel Jack Smith when he did want to seek the recusal, because he would have already lost a recusal motion. You pretty much only got one shot at that. You can't swing and miss when you go and do that. So that's why I think strategically special counsel Jack Smith's like, look, there's a body of case law in the 11th Circuit, and it's a case from the 1980s, I think, involving sentencing where a judge got it wrong 3 times. And finally, the 11th Circuit removed that judge from that case, kind of 3 strikes, you're out. So I think in Jack Smith's mind, whether he was thinking it's a 3-strike rule or whatever, we're going to do that potentially. We just have to see if she makes a bad SEPA ruling, if she makes a bad ruling on one of these pending motions. And her response to the experience from 2022, where she asserted this equitable jurisdiction, which no court ever did ever. And she said in her ruling, we need to treat Donald Trump differently than anybody else. And she said he's like above the law. And the 11th Circuit was like, what? She pretty much issued that ruling, though, within about 3 months or so of the search warrant being executed. And I think she looks back at that and goes, oh, crap, I could have really screwed over the DOJ there if I had not made a ruling, held all of these status conferences, pushed things back 18 months. That's how I work the mischief. So the kind of sadistic thing here, Harry, is that what seems to happen, she looked at the lesson and figured out, okay, here's how I'm going to be more nefarious about it and try to stretch this thing out. But I think Jack Smith, to your point, when the time is right, he's going to make that ask. She just, again, here we are. The case was filed, what, at this point in June? Then there was a superseding indictment in August. I mean, we're talking about, she hasn't issued a substantive order by February, but then we've got March 1. She's got that status conference. And this is where the incompetence kind of also matches, I think, the kind of corruption, if you will. What's she going to do on March 1? Her docket, it's hard to follow. Do you think she could even follow all these filings that she has? Like, can she even keep track of them at this point?
And she's all alone, unlike Chutkin, right? I mean, go to the head of the class, 100%. And by the way, I think you're dead on in the analysis of Jack Smith. The 11th Circuit law is not so easy to bounce someone. That the case you talked about, the judge was nakedly insubordinate, not just blundering or foolish. And DOJ, besides, they do not want to be. They went, remember, back and forth. Should it be in Florida or not? Turns out they probably made a mistake. But they're very sensitive about looking like they're in any way manipulating the system. You don't want to go after a judge unless you've really got the goods. And that's what he's waiting for. And she knows it. And it's not simply so. Everything she's done, I'll put it this way, is consistent with a nefarious strategy. And remember, if what is maybe on the line for her, the same thing that whatever, Mark Meadows, Steve Cannon, Mitch McConnell, they're rolling the dice on a Trump victory. And if Trump wins the presidency, that woman is going like a bullet to the 11th Circuit, if not the Supreme Court, and it's clear. And if he doesn't, it's going to be a very long time for her in Mar-a-Lago. So, it's all consistent with that. But in any event, she's certainly, maybe just out of fear, hasn't given them, and seems purposely not to have given them stuff to work with, even as she delays, and it's a friggin' shame. But I think that one is basically off the table now. And if he loses election, she'll have to eventually bring it to trial. But we're just not going. It's going to be a long time until justice is done there, when it's really a very open and shut case.
I mean, you take a look at some of these requests by Donald Trump in the motion to compel that special counsel Jack Smith, responded to on Friday. Trump's asking for production of the CCTV footage, and Jack Smith's like, we turn that over. Go through your documents and the videos. Yeah. You will see that there. Donald Trump requests the production of materials concerning the search of Mar-a-Lago. Jack Smith's like, we've turned that over. Donald Trump requests evidence relating to secure facilities at Trump's residence. And special counsel Jack Smith's like, that's your residence. You want us to tell you about your own residence? But by the way, Jack Smith threw in something really interesting here too. Jack Smith talks about how of approximately 48,000 guests who visited Mar-a-Lago between January 21 and May 2022, while classified documents were scattered about the property, only 2,200 had their names checked. and only 2,900 passed through magnometers. So like that was a kind of interesting stat right there of like, you had no clue. And Jack Smith's basically saying, we know, we've explained it to you. One of the other things.
One other quick point: these long motions do give little snippets. We learned from this motion that there was that many witnesses or people who were investigated or whom the government spoke to for the election interference case, they also did for Mar-a-Lago. So that's an interesting detail. That's a revelation to us.
Trump was trying to claim that he has this special security clearance with the Department of Energy that gave him like perpetual authority to have access to nuclear weapons. Jack Smith said, we searched that doesn't exist, and that's actually not
on the planet
thing.
Earth. It doesn't exist. Can you imagine a president in perpetuity? Oh, but you can always see the nuclear stuff. Just give us a call. We'll tell you what's happening there.
So
sorry,
that was Jack Smith's motion. So we'll keep everybody apprised, but that's what's up with Judge Aileen Cannon. And I just think it's important that we continue to update everybody.
The pressure ought to be kept on her and so on. But, people have just forgotten about her. And really, it's a scandal. And, the American people ought to be aware of this important chance at justice and for their knowledge going into the election that she's just foiling. It ain't right.
Well, I agree with you. And look, you vetted judges, federal judges. That was your job. Right. I won't say how long ago, but I may or may not have been alive when you were.
I know
vetting
Meredith
judges.
wasn't. Yeah, go ahead.
Federal judges. So this coming from you too, you have a front row seat literally about the appointment of federal judges, their qualifications and their fitness to be judges. So thank you for joining us. Everybody check out the Talking Feds YouTube channel. You just search Talking Feds on YouTube. We're trying to help Talking Feds, which is partnered with the MeidasTouch Network, get to 250,000 subscribers. With your support, Meidas Mighty, I'm confident we can get there. So go check that out right now. Harry, as always, thank you for being a part of the Meidas Mighty team, Talking Feds team. Thank you, everybody, and shout out to the Meidas Mighty.
All right.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.